welcome back to my channel. I'm so happy to have you here today. First of all, I have to say I'm sorry how I went MIA for like 2 months now. It was initially not planned, but then somehow a lot of things came up. Like it was summer, it was vacation season, had some family visiting me, and suddenly I didn't have any time anymore to make my videos. So I decided I will just take a 2-month break and I will be here back in September. So as I'm filming this, it's 4th of September. So yeah, I'm back and I'm happy to be back. Please don't judge what you see in the background. It is my Christmas tree, but it's just standing there because I don't have storage space basically. So yeah, it's just standing there the whole year, but I mean, now it's September already, so I think I can put it in my background already. So the case we're going to be talking about today is extremely disturbing. We're talking about the brutal murder of a pregnant woman and the abduction of her unborn child. The case actually recently has gotten a lot of public attention, as the murderer in this case has just been executed last year in January 2021, and she has been the first female federal prisoner being executed since 67 years. Bobbie Jo Stinnett was born under her maiden name Bobbie Jo Potter on 4th December 1981 in Graham, Missouri. Growing up, she was described as a very happy person, very loving person. Everyone liked to be around her. She was described as a little bit shy and quiet, but always fun to be around. She graduated high school in the year 2000, and she actually met her future husband already in high school, so they were high school sweethearts and they continued to be together after they graduated. His name was Zab, and they got married in 2002. She took on his last name. The young couple moved to a small town called Skidmore in Missouri to build their life together. This was a very, very small town, very tight-knit community. Everybody knows everybody, and it had around only 300 residents. It is an interesting and actually very scary side note that in this small town, a whole of 3 high-profile cases took place. So there was Branson Perry, who vanished in 2001 under mysterious circumstances, and to this day he has never been found. He vanished in front of his door and he has never been seen again. Branson Perry was actually a cousin of Bobbie's. Another case that received a lot of media attention was the shooting of Ken McElroy, who was a criminal himself. He was shot in the year 1981 in broad daylight in his pickup truck in Skidmore's Main Street. To this day, nobody has been convicted for the crime as well. Bobbie and her husband Zab shared a love for dogs, especially they liked rat terriers, and the couple would attend various dog shows within the community, and they also ran their own breeding business. In 2004, Bobbie Jo discovered that she was pregnant, and the young couple was super excited to be welcoming their first child very soon. Awaiting birth and also to support her dog breeding business, Bobbie spent a significant amount of time on the online platform RadoChatter, which was a forum with a chat room where people with the mutual interest for rat terriers could chat. Through this online platform, a woman who called herself Darlene Fisher, but who was actually named Lisa Montgomery, came into Bobbie's life. Lisa Marie Montgomery was born on 27 February 1968 in Melbourne, Kansas. Her parents divorced shortly after she was born, and her father abandoned the family so that she was living with her mother Judy. Lisa's mother suffered from a severe alcohol addiction, which led to Lisa being born with the fetal alcohol syndrome, which caused a permanent brain damage to her. Also, Lisa's childhood and her upbringing in general can only be described as an absolute horror story. Judy got remarried, and by the age of 11, Lisa was repeatedly beaten and raped by her stepfather and his friends. It is even said that Lisa's mother would sell her daughter to have sex with men in exchange for some handyman work in the house, like electrical work or plumbing. In one particular encounter, Judy walked into her husband sexually abusing Lisa, and instead of getting furious at her husband, she was pointing a gun on Lisa's head because she believed that her 14-year-old daughter seduced her husband. Luckily, when Lisa was in her later teenage years, Judy and her second husband got a divorce, and Judy even testified to the police about the sexual abuse during her divorce hearings. Unfortunately, no action has ever been taken against Lisa's stepfather. In 1986, when Lisa was 18 years old, she actually got married to her stepbrother, Carl. The couple had 4 children within the next 5 years, following to which Lisa got a hysterectomy done, preventing her from having any additional children. And this is important to note, so Lisa at this point, she cannot get pregnant anymore. However, according to what Carl would later say, Lisa absolutely loved the attention every time that she was pregnant. Despite all her hopes for having finally a better life, Carl turned out exactly like his father. He was a very abusive man, he was very controlling to Lisa, he would beat her and he would sexually assault her all the time. In 1998, Lisa and Carl eventually got divorced, and one reason for the divorce was, according to Carl, that Lisa pretending 2 times that she was pregnant even after having the surgery done. So she cannot get pregnant anymore, but she pretended to be 2 times. At this point, I guess Carl just couldn't stand her lies anymore. But to be honest, better for Lisa in the end, since Carl was not exactly the loving husband she was hoping for. Sometime after this, I do not have the exact year, Lisa met her second husband, Kevin Montgomery, and the couple got married in the year 2000. Kevin was a divorced man with 3 children, 3 sons of his own. During her marriage to Kevin, Lisa went on to pretend that she was pregnant 3 different times. The 2 first fake pregnancies resulted in miscarriages, as Lisa claimed, and in 2004, now for the 3rd time during her marriage with Kevin, Lisa went around telling her friends and her ex-husband Carl that she was pregnant again. Carl, of course, did not believe a word Lisa was saying because he knew that Lisa had the hysterectomy done back then. And eventually, even during their marriage, Lisa lied 2 times before about being pregnant. On the other side, Lisa's now husband Kevin and his 3 children believed her because they did not have any reason not to believe her. She never told them about the surgery that she has done. Lisa, who was obviously not pregnant at this point, did everything to let the world see that she was. She was wearing all kinds of baggy clothes, later she would wear maternity clothes, and she told everyone that her due date was in January 2005. Now we're going back to Bobbie Jo. So in December 2004, Bobbie Jo was 8 months pregnant, and she advertised on the online platform Chatter that she has new red terrier puppies for sale from a recent litter. She gets a message from a woman called Darlene Fisher, who was interested in purchasing one of the puppies. Bobbie and Darlene already knew each other a little bit from the online platform. They used to chat together because both of them were 8 months pregnant at this point. So they had a lot to bond over. Bobbie gave her address to Darlene and they agreed to meet at her house on 16th December 2004 so that Darlene could come and have a look at the puppies. Darlene actually lived 175 miles away from Skidmore, but she did not mind. She was happy to drive up there and to have a look at the dogs. So before leaving the house in the morning, Darlene told her daughter she had the feeling that today would be the day she would give birth. She told her family that she was going to go into town to go shopping, but instead she took on the 175 miles drive to Bobbie Jo's house. On the way to Bobbie Jo's house, Darlene stopped at the local convenience store and she bought a box cutter as well as a home birthing set. On the afternoon of the same day, Bobbie had made a plan with her mother Becky to pick Becky up from her work. However, she did not show up. When her mother's multiple attempts to reach Bobbie failed, she grew increasingly worried because Bobbie is 8 months pregnant at this point and she could find herself in a dangerous situation. Moreover, it was not like her at all. Bobbie was a very reliable person and she would always be on time and she would always come somewhere where she agreed to come. So Becky decided to drive to Bobbie's house to check on her daughter. But as soon as she entered to the house, she found herself in an absolutely horrific crime scene. She found her daughter Bobbie lying in a pool of blood on the floor and immediately called 911. She described Bobbie's wounds as if her stomach has exploded. In addition to that, Bobbie's stomach was actually empty and the unborn baby was gone. Paramedics arrived quickly to the scene and took Bobbie to the hospital, where she sadly later was pronounced dead. Now that Bobbie tragically passed away, the investigators came to the question, what happened to the baby? Like, the baby was gone. Somebody must have kidnapped the unborn child. So an Amber Alert was sent out. However, this has been the first time that an Amber Alert was sent out for an unborn child. So nobody was able to provide any description of the child at this point. However, there were some witnesses who claimed that they saw an unusual car in the neighborhood on the day of Bobbie's murder. They described the car that has approached Bobbie's house earlier that day as being a red Toyota Corolla. Now, since the brutal murder of Bobbie Jo received a lot of public attention, of course the word spread also into the Reddit chatter forum, and people were talking about the gruesome attack on one of their members. One of the members actually contacted the police, and she remembered that Bobbie agreed with a person called Darlene that Darlene would come to Bobbie's house to have a look at the puppies because she was interested in purchasing one of them. So this information immediately raised concern to the police, and they were able to track down Darlene's IP address and found her actual address in Melbourne, Kansas. The address belonged to Lisa and Kevin Montgomery, and Lisa had used a fake name in the forum. Now, since this was a case of child abduction which crossed state lines, the FBI also got involved. And on 17th December 2004, one day after the murder, investigators went out to drive to Melbourne in order to question Lisa. First thing they saw when they reached the house was that the red Toyota Corolla was sitting in the driveway. When investigators entered the house, they found Lisa lying on the sofa, watching TV with having a very young newborn child in her arms. She claimed that this child was her daughter named Abigail, and she gave birth to her only one day prior in a birthing center in Topeka, Kansas. This is the same story, by the way, which Lisa told her husband Kevin. So she went alone to the birthing center and she gave birth. A bit later in the questioning, it seems to have come to Lisa's mind that the investigators would go to the birthing center to verify her story. So Lisa asked to have a word with the FBI agents in private without her husband hearing it, and she changed her story completely. Now she claimed that she gave birth to her child Abigail at home by herself. Now, of course, this whole story seemed completely bizarre to the investigators, and they took Lisa down to the police station for further questioning. So Lisa is at the police station, right? At the same time, Abigail was brought into the hospital in order to do a DNA test to verify if Lisa and Kevin are really her parents or not. Lisa, who noticed she was not able to keep her lies up anymore, broke down in the station and she confessed to everything. On the question of how Lisa managed to cut the baby out of Bobbie's stomach without damaging the baby, Lisa claimed that she has watched a lot of videos about home birthing and about C-sections, so that she claimed she felt confident enough to perform a C-section with a sharp kitchen knife. Lisa, of course, was immediately arrested, and she was charged with kidnapping on a federal level that resulted in the death of Bobbie Jo. Meanwhile, the baby, who was surprisingly in a very good health, she was returned to her father, Zepp, and Zepp named her Victoria Jo. Since Lisa's crime resulted in the death of her victim, she was eligible to be charged with the death penalty. Now, the United States federal government has ever only executed 3 women on a federal level, and the last execution took place in 1953. The trial started in October 2007, and basically the defense's whole strategy was based on Lisa's horrible childhood and on her mental state. Psychiatrists testified that Lisa was diagnosed with depression, PTSD, borderline personality disorder, the fetal alcohol spectrum syndrome, also a phantom pregnancy disorder. This is a rare condition where women believe that they are pregnant and their bodies actually show symptoms of pregnancy, even though they are not pregnant. So Lisa's defense team were trying to reach a not guilty plea by reasons of insanity. The prosecution, however, called a high-profile forensic psychiatrist with the name Park Dietz to the stand, and this psychiatrist disagreed with the defense and testified that Lisa did not suffer from a phantom pregnancy disorder and was in her right state of mind when committing the murder. On 22nd of October 2007, the jury found Lisa guilty based on the overwhelming evidence that Lisa committed the crime, and on 26th of October 2007, the jury recommended the death penalty. Judge Gary Fander formally sentenced Lisa Montgomery to death by lethal injection. So after all her appeals were exhausted, Lisa received her execution date, which was originally to be set on 8th December 2020. However, it was delayed due to one of her lawyers contracting COVID-19. The execution was rescheduled for 12th of January 2021. On 1st of January 2021, Federal Judge Patrick Hanlon granted a stay of execution, stating that Lisa's mental stability needs to be tested, as executing an individual who suffers from mental illnesses would violate the 8th Amendment of the US Constitution in regards to cruel and unusual punishment. The stay of execution, however, was overturned by the US Supreme Court by a 6-3 vote, and the execution order was ordered to be carried out immediately. Lisa was executed by lethal injection in the early morning hours of the 13th January 2021, and when she was asked if she had any final words to say, she simply responded no. Lisa Montgomery was pronounced dead at 1:31 a.m. She became the first female federal prisoner being executed since 67 years, the first female prisoner in the US executed since 2015, and the first prisoner in the US executed in the year 2021. Lisa's execution was followed by the executions of Corey Johnson and Dustin Hicks, who were both put to death a couple of days after her, and these were the last 3 executions under the presidency of Donald Trump, all carried out during his lame duck period. It was said that Lisa kept a calendar in her cell where she was circling Joe Biden's inauguration date, which was 20th January 2021, as he promised to put a temporary hold on federal executions. Lisa has been executed 1 week prior to Biden's inauguration. Now, there are actually a lot of debates going on whether Lisa deserved what happened to her or if she was actually a victim herself. I mean, she clearly has had the most horrible upbringing, and she should have gotten the help that she needed when she needed it. Nevertheless, I believe that many people are going through a lot throughout their lives. Many people have a rough time, and not everyone is going around murdering people and cutting their stomachs open. But I believe that Lisa should have been locked up for life, maybe in a mental hospital, just so that she can be treated as well, because I believe if she would ever have been released, she would have killed again. Please let me know what you think about this. I'm really curious about your opinions. And I'm just heartbroken for Bobbie Jo and her family. I mean, she was so happy to become a mother. Like, she was so excited on this new journey. and I'm sure she would have been an absolutely amazing mother, and she was just taken too soon. Her daughter Victoria Jo is now 17 years old, and I really just hope that she and her father are doing well. I hope they are okay. As far as I know, nobody of them ever came out publicly, nobody held an interview, but I mean, that's okay, and they should just be able to somehow live their life, and I hope that they got over the traumatic experience that they had. With this being said, this is all for me today. I hope you liked this video. I would appreciate if you could subscribe to my channel, as new videos are coming your way soon. Bye!